everyone, it's Shannon here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we are going to create this fun little bunny card. This card has a little surprise when you open it up. On the back side of the front, you'll find this little bunny's behind poking through that pile of carrots. This requires some mirror stamping, so I'm going to demonstrate today my favorite way to do that. I'm going to start by creating my base. First, I'm going to use the Playful Pastels paper pad here. I'm going to grab a beautiful sheet of patterned paper and I'm going to trim it down to an A2 panel. And then I'm going to kind of place it over the front of an A2 top folding white card base. Grab a square die here, position it on the front over both the panel and the card front. Use a couple pieces of tape to hold it in place, and then I'll run it through my die cutting machine. I'm running them together, so that's some added thickness, so it didn't cut through the two layers, so that's okay. I just really want to get that impression so I can nestle that die right back into that panel, run it through so it cuts cleanly, and then I'll nestle it in the impression left on the card base and run it through. So that way my card front or my panel and my card base will match perfectly. That window will match perfectly. So I'm ready to adhere this. Just going to use some tape here on the back side of that pattern paper and stick it down to my card front. Once I have that stuck down, we're going to move on to creating a frame. I'm going to create a frame today with the wood frame builder dies. I'm going to use the two smallest dies here at the bottom to build a square frame. I die cut 8 of those frame pieces out of Kraft cardstock, and now I'm going to kind of create one frame using 4 of those pieces. I'm using little pieces of washi tape here to kind of hold the frame together as I build it. This is just going to make it a lot easier to build it first and then place it on my card front to get it nice and centered. So I'm just using, once I've got it built here, I'll flip it over, grab some glue, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the very outmost edges of this, because this frame is a little bit smaller than the window and I don't want to get any glue kind of all over this card. So I'm just going to eyeball it here, kind of center it over that opening, and once I kind of get it stuck down, and then I'm going to flip it over and kind of see that I've got it pretty well centered, and that looks good. So I'm now going to adhere the 4 remaining frame pieces. So again, I'm going to use my liquid glue, adding it to the little bits that you see of the Kraft foam frame, as well as a little bit onto the white card base as well. And then I'll just grab these frame pieces and line them up so they match with the little bit that you do see of the front Kraft frame, and that'll ensure that everything gets lined up and kind of matches and hidden perfectly, and this will really clean it up and you'll have a really pretty frame on the inside of the card as well. So I just stuck down that last piece there, just holding everything to make sure it's all stuck down, and now I'll carefully remove that washi tape because I don't need it anymore, and that will actually complete kind of my card base. Now we're ready to kind of move on to our images. So I'm going to use this super cute Loads of Spring stamp set. I'm going to use that pile of carrots, the bunny, and I've just positioned the stamps here over an A2 panel of Neenah Solar White cardstock, stamped them in Memento Tuxedo Black. Then I cleaned the little bunny, his face, and stamped him a second time, so I have 2 little bunny faces. And now I'm simply going to Copic color these images, starting with the carrots, and start with my lightest shade first, which is YR00. Now I'm moving on to YR2. This is obviously my darker shade, which I'm using to create a shadow. After I added that shadow, I then went back over with YR00 to kind of blend it out. Now moving on to the carrot top, starting with YG61, which is my lighter green, and then moving on to G43 for my darker green on all those stems. Once I finish those, I'm going to move on to the rabbits. I'm going to make him white, starting with BG10, just to add a little shadow around the white areas, the white fur, and then I'm moving on to RV11 for the pink areas, and then RV21 just for the darker shade on that pink. I went ahead and die cut all my images out, as well as a unstamped pile of carrots. I'm going to actually do my mirrored stamping on that. I have a water media mat here. This is the mini water media mat. I'm going to place it inside my MISTI, and then I'm going to grab that cardstock and place that inside my MISTI as well. This is the cardstock I die cut the pile of carrots out of. Then I'm going to grab my pile of carrot stamp, position it inside that opening of the cardstock, and then pick it up with my MISTI. Next, I will ink up that pile of carrots with Memento Tuxedo Black and then stamp it directly onto that mini water media mat. And you can see the impression there on the mat. Now I'm going to stamp it 2 more times just to kind of build up the intensity of that ink. So here we're going to stamp it one last time, and then I will grab that unstamped die cut and plop it or pop it in to the opening. And then I will gently press all over that die cut, and that's going to transfer that image that's on the mini water media mat onto the cardstock. And then I'll just lift it out of the negative here, and there you can see we have our die cut perfectly stamped with that mirrored image of the pile of carrots. Now we're going to move on to stamping our sentiment inside our card. So I quickly arranged my images so I knew where I wanted my sentiment to go, and then I'll simply stamp it here on to my card, which is actually the inside of my card. And last, we're just going to kind of arrange all our die cuts, starting with the bunny. I'm going to grab the 2 bunny pieces and stick them together. And this is just going to make sure we have a little bit of a visual of the bunny on the back side, the kind of back of his ears. And those actually fit together pretty well. They kind of mirror up together pretty well. I'm going to start with my unmirrored version of my carrots and just adhere it to the front of my card. And then I will grab my little bunny here, add a little bit of glue to the back side, and stick him down. Once I get him in place, then we're actually ready to move on to the inside of our card. So I'm going to open it up here. And before I stick down this pile of carrots, I do want to support it a little bit here. So I cut 3 strips of scrap cardstock, and I'm just going to pop them in behind that pile of carrots, and this again will just provide a little bit of support so it's just not so flimsy. And then now that I've got those 3 pieces of cardstock stacked up on top, I can now adhere my mirrored pile of carrots. And then I will simply finish by adhering the little bunnies behind right to that pile of carrots. And here is the finished card. I'll hold it to the camera so you can get a good look. I love how cute that little bunny is, poking his head through the carrots, and then when you open it up, you see our sentiment, and then that fun surprise of seeing the backside of these images all stamped. And I just think it makes for a really fun, clean, simple kind of card. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I used, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.